Everyone knows debt is keeping you broke. For the people actually building wealth, it's backwards. The average American carries $6,700 in credit card debt at 24% bleeding money every month. The wealthiest 1%, they borrow more than ever on purpose. Same word, debt. Two opposite results. It's not how much you borrow, it's which side of one line it lands on. By the end, you'll know where every loan sits. Quick disclaimer before we go further, this is education, not personalized financial advice. I'm not a certified planner, and nothing here is a recommendation to take out any specific loan. These are historical numbers used to show how the math works, not a promise of what happens to yours. I'm not guessing at any of this. I pulled the numbers straight from the Federal Reserve and ran the actual math myself. Every figure in this video is checkable, not just repeated because it sounds good. Here's the one line that separates good debt from bad debt, and almost nobody draws it correctly. It has nothing to do with how big the loan is. It isn't even about the interest rate by itself. The real test is simple. It's whether the money you borrowed buys something that grows or something that shrinks the moment you drive it off the lot. Banks don't care which side you land on. They get paid whether the debt builds you up or buries you. A $400,000 mortgage and a $400 payday loan follow the exact same rule underneath. If the asset on the other end earns more than the debt costs, that's leverage, the polite word for good debt. But if it costs more than it ever gives back, that's just a slow bleed with a monthly due date. Picture two people borrowing the same amount tomorrow morning. One buys a rental down payment. One buys a vacation on a credit card. Same number on paper, completely different math underneath, because $1 is working and the other is just gone. Most people never check which side of that line their own loans sit on, and it's costing them more than they realize. Nowhere is that gap more brutal than in the debt everyone actually carries. The average American right now holds about $6,700 in credit card debt at an average rate of 24% compounding monthly. And that same card shows you a minimum payment designed to feel harmless. The mechanism, minimum payments sit around 2% of your balance on purpose. Low enough that you barely notice. High enough that the bank profits for years off that same $6,000. Leave that balance on minimums and you're not looking at a few months. You're looking at well over a decade. Some balances stretching past 20 years while you hand over multiples of what you originally spent in pure interest. Total US credit card debt now sits at about $1.25 trillion, near record highs, according to the New York Fed. That's not one bad decision. That's a system built to collect a toll from people who never see the road they're driving on. Think about the last purchase you swiped for and didn't pay off that same month. Groceries, a flight, a treat yourself buy. None of it grew. None of it paid you back. It just sat there, compounding against you every month. And you're the one covering the difference. Right now, if you're carrying any revolving balance, that same 24% is working against you every day, whether you think about it or not. But the wealthiest people on the planet, they're running that exact same mechanism in reverse, on purpose. And it's making them richer instead of poorer. Here's exactly how they flip it. Here's what the wealthy actually do with debt. And it's the opposite of what you'd expect. They don't avoid it. They load up on it. At rates most people would call cheap, the mechanism is collateral. Banks lend against an asset for far less than they lend against a person because the asset backs the loan. A mortgage today runs around 6.5%. A loan against a stock portfolio, about 7 to 8%. Compare that to 24% on a credit card, backed by nothing at all. That gap is the entire game. The S&P 500 has historically averaged close to 10% a year. A historical number, not a guarantee, but borrow at 7 or 8% against something that has historically outgrown that cost. And the spread between those two numbers is where wealth compounds. That's why the top 1% rarely sell their stock, spend money. Selling triggers tax, borrowing against it doesn't. So they spend the cash and let the asset keep growing untouched. It's legal. It's boring. People have called it buy, borrow, die for decades, but leverage cuts both ways. If the asset falls instead of rises, the loan is still due. which is exactly why this isn't something to copy blindly. Same debt, same interest, completely different direction. And most people never get shown which end they're on. Here's the number that actually decides good debt from bad debt, and it isn't a gut feeling, it's subtraction. Take the after-tax cost of the debt, then take the realistic return of whatever it's buying. If the return is higher than the cost, that gap works for you every day you hold the loan. But if the debt costs more than the asset gives back, the same gap works against you. And no amount of it'll pay off eventually changes the math. Say a mortgage costs an effective 5% after any tax benefit, while stocks have historically average returns north of that over time. Not guaranteed, just historical. Every year you hold that loan, the spread quietly pays you. But flip it, the average car loan runs around 9%, financing an asset that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. That spread is negative from day one. You're not leveraging anything and you're financing a loss on a payment plan. Same word, debt, pointed in completely opposite directions. The math doesn't care about intentions, it only cares which side of the break-even line the money landed on. And most people find out which side too late to matter. What comes next changes how you look at every future loan you take out, because we're about to run real numbers on both sides and watch 10 full years play out in under a minute. Picture two people, same morning, the exact same $40,000 decision. Person A finances a car and overdue bills, on cards averaging 24%, paid off over 10 years. Person B borrows the same $40,000 at 8% interest only and puts it into a diversified index fund. 10 years later, person A has paid roughly $66,000 in interest alone on top of the original $40,000, and whatever they finance is worth close to nothing. That's over $100,000 handed to a bank for nothing that still exists. Person B's 10 years run the opposite direction. That same $40,000 growing at a historical 10% a year grows to roughly $104,000. That includes repaying the principal and the $32,000 in interest paid along the way. Person B still walks away about $32,000 ahead in real net worth. Same starting number, same word, debt, on both people's paperwork. And the swing between them, close to $100,000. One path buried a person in a hole they dug themselves. The other quietly built real wealth while they lived their life. Here's why that gap matters more than ever right now. Total household debt in the US has climbed past $18 trillion, and credit card balances alone make up over $1.25 trillion of that, near the highest ever recorded. That's not because people are reckless for fun, it's because minimum payments are engineered to feel manageable, while the balance barely moves year after year. A 24% balance left completely unpaid doubles in size roughly every 3 years. That's just the rule of 72 doing its job in reverse. The same 3 years spent holding a lower cost loan against an appreciating asset moves net worth the opposite direction, up instead of down. That's the trap. Bad debt compounds against you at the exact same speed. Good debt compounds for someone else. The same mathematical engine running in reverse. So the danger was never debt itself. The danger is not knowing which direction your specific loan is spinning. And most people only find out after years of payments that never seem to shrink the number they started with. So here's the math nobody shows you. Boiled down to one line. Good debt is money borrowed against something that grows faster than the loan costs. Bad debt is money borrowed against something that doesn't grow at all. That's the entire test. Not the size of the loan, not how scary the interest rate sounds on its own. Just that one spread running for you or against you every single day. You carry the balance. A 24% credit card financing a depreciating purchase is bad debt at any amount. A 7 or 8% loan financing something that has historically outgrown that cost, a business, a diversified fund, that's leverage. And leverage is how real wealth compounds. Over decades, not overnight. The wealthy didn't find a secret account nobody else has access to. They just stopped treating every loan the same. So they started asking the one question that actually matters. What is this borrowed dollar buying? And does it pay for itself? Run that question against every loan sitting in your name right now. The card, the car, the mortgage. You'll know instantly which side of the line each one sits on. Nobody hit this math. Almost nobody. Just stop to check it. And that gap is exactly what separates who builds wealth and who doesn't. Add it up. And the gap is enormous. A person financing $40,000 in consumer debt can hand over more than $100,000 to a bank over 10 years for nothing that still exists. Someone leveraging that same $40,000 into an appreciating asset can walk away roughly $32,000 ahead in real net worth after every cost. Call it a swing of nearly $100,000, built entirely from which side of one line the money landed on. Not a bigger paycheck, not luck. Just the spread between what debt costs and what it buys, quietly compounding in one direction or the other for years before anyone notices. Here's your one move this week. Pull up every loan currently in your name, the cards, the car, the mortgage, and write down what each one actually financed. That's the entire test. And if this changed how you see debt, subscribe, because the next video breaks down the exact number your credit score is really built from and why paying off a card too fast can quietly hurt it.